Welcome everybody to my Shining Force 1 tier list. This is based on my playthrough of the game, my series, just check that out. Okay, so let's just begin at the bottom with the Unranked characters, which were Hanzo and Koichi. The reason those two aren't ranked is because I actually forgot about them completely and didn't pick them up on the way. Moving up to Trash tier, also known as Adam. He's there because, well, you get him too late, he's too low level, and he starts out too weak. And to be honest, he kind of just ends up like Masashi, which is just a kind of better version of him, because he already starts out powerful. Anyway, moving on to Jogurt. He's above Adam because you get him earlier. He's consistent because he's really fucking consistent because he's weak. He can heal your team. He's got high movement and shit, but that's about it. He doesn't really have much else going for him. That's why he's got his own tier. Anyway, moving up to good but better options, where these are characters that just have better versions of themselves. Starting off with Vanka. He's just the worst paladin in the game. For me, at least. I got all the shit stats, apparently. I heard some people get good stats with him. I never get good stats with him. Moving on to Lyle. He's just Hans and Diane, but worse, because he's on a horse, and you get him pretty late, so he doesn't have much time to contribute to the team. That's all I have to say about Lyle. Moving on to Ernest. He's also a pretty shitty knight. The only reason he's really above Vanka is because he looks a bit cooler. Vanka's got that crusty, musty color, but Ernest has got that cool-ass, purple, I think it is. Can't remember at the top of my head. Moving on to Gort. He's just there because Luke's just better than him. And he's just got loads of movement and shit, okay? Next is Low. He's there because he doesn't have aura, really, and he's just not as good as the others. That's all I have to really say. Just average tier. Now, this is just characters that are just a tiny bit below average. You can think of them as just another tier for good but better options. Because, starting off with Gong, he's just there because, well, he can offer something a little bit different from the other healers if you want him. Which is, he's a master monk, so he's meant to deal damage. He's not that powerful. But yeah, that's all I have to say about Gong. You get Luke's pretty good because you get him straight away. He's not an optional character. He's a little time to contribute. His stats are pretty good. The only reason he's here is because his low movement kind of just takes him out of the battle much of the time. Next is Masashi. These two can pretty much be rotated around. Masashi's down here just because you get him too late. And he's here because he's got really good stats. So at least, unlike Adam, you don't have to level him the fuck up. So that's a good sign. But that's really all I have to say about Masashi as well. You just get him too late, okay? That's all I have to say. Moving on to Diane and Hans. I think Hans was the better option for me, I believe. Because you get him way earlier, so, But yeah, it doesn't matter. These two can be interchangeable. They're just here because, well, they're not the greatest, but they have something that most of these other characters above them don't have, which is 3 range. And they also get faster movement through forest, because I think they do, at least, because they're, archers. But that's all really about them. They're pretty good. Moving on to the average tier, we got Alif. She's here because you get her too late. That's the same with Tarasu. They've both got the reason they're so high up is because, well, they've got really good spells, and that's all that really saves them. Then we've got Blue. He would probably be higher up on other people's tier list, but you get him too late as well, and he starts out pretty weak. He's like Adam, but you just get him earlier, which is good. And he's flying, so he's even better than Adam actually. But that's all about Blue. Now moving on to Tao. She just doesn't have a 3 range magic spell, which really just slows her down because she doesn't have high movement because, none of the wizards do. But yeah, she just has no 3 range, so it really limits how much damage she can do. Blaze 4 is really the only good spell she has on her, so she has really nothing else to go with. Boost is okay on other characters, I guess, but that's all that Tao has. Moving on to these 3 paladins, Mei, Pele, Ken. I believe these 3 are the best in the game for paladins. They can be pretty much interchangeable, I think. But I think Ken is better than Pele and then Mei. Funny because I used Mei until the last battle, but the others I kicked out. Don't know what was going through my head, but whatever. They've got all good stats. You'll probably see them. Yeah, that's all they have, really. They've got high movement, so they're able to get into battles. And they've got, 2 range. And that's it. Moving on to Xylo, probably a more controversial pick, because most people put him probably at least in the solid tier. I'm just here because he didn't really have the best stats for me, but he's a really good character. That's why he's at least an average. But he just doesn't really have much else going for him, and I don't find him to be that useful most of the time. There are certain times, though, some of those battles were really annoying. I did actually use him up to the last thing, so that's a good sign. Alright, that's all for Xylo. Moving on to Domingo, he's also here just because he kind of falls off later in the game. Remember that these guys, I guess I don't really explain that, but these guys are all being ranked at their pretty much max level 40. So they get promoted to level 20. And then, and since Domingo, well, he doesn't really get promoted. So that really holds back his stats a lot compared to the others. He's really good, early on. As soon as you get him, he's pretty he's good, okay? It's just that if you level all the other characters up, he kind of falls off a little bit. And to be honest, there's not really much else going for him. He's got freeze, that's about it. I think I also used him up to the last battle, though, because he is still pretty good. Anyway, moving on to the solid tier. These characters pretty much have no flaws, really, but they're not really, they don't deserve to be in the amazing tier. So we got Chris. She's here because, well, she's got aura. That's all I had to really say. She's got good stats. Her level is at 30, by the way, so there might be something a little bit mixed up in the stats right there. But yeah, there's not much to say about her. She's got the best spells, in my opinion. She's just got quick, aura, heal, and what the fuck was the last one? Slow. To me, slow doesn't really come in handy. But yeah, she's all good. Moving on to Anri, she's here because she's got Freeze 4. And you get her early, so she has a lot of time to contribute. And Freeze 4 is just over fucking powered. So, that's a good quality to have. Alright, moving on to Guntz. He's here because he's got really good defense. He's the only reason he's really not amazing, I guess, is because, well, he doesn't have enough health. But yeah, he's got no, haltment and, forest and shit, so he's not halted by movement or whatever as much as the others. But, he can't really go ahead and solo every single thing, especially not magic users. But yeah, he's here just because he's really solid, like the TSAs. Moving on to Arthur, he's really only here because, well, the later battles kind of screw him, because, he's a paladin, so his movement in forests and mountains aren't really the greatest. He starts off pretty weak, so you kind of do have to baby him for a little bit, which kind of holds him back as well. But he does learn magic, so yeah, as much as I wanted to put him in amazing, his magic just isn't that good. I don't think I really use it ever, which is sad, because he was a really cool idea for a knight, but he just wasn't done properly. I feel like it would have been a really cool addition to Shining Force 2, to be honest. Yeah, because I feel like that game had just bit of shit. And then moving on to Max, he's solid. He's your Max. The only reason he's actually here is because, well, if he dies, the battle is over. And that's it. His stats are all amazing. And most of the time he should be probably using, the stat boost on him. So he should normally be, at very least, pretty good. Be able to handle himself. And then, finally, moving on to the amazing tier, we got Balbore and Amon. These two are pretty much interchangeable because, they're a team. So, it doesn't really matter because you normally can use both. They're here because they got flying. And their stats are pretty good actually, no? Forgot what else I was going to say. Yeah, guys. Yeah, I think the only reason people don't use them as much is because they kind of start out a little bit weak. But you just gotta baby them for maybe the first 2 or 3 battles, pretty much until the end of the chapter, chapter 3 or whatever, and then they'll be pretty much good for the rest of the game. They're just really good, okay? Yeah, but that's it. That's my Shining Force tier list. I have no idea how long this took to record. But yeah, this is it. You probably will disagree. Most definitely. I highly doubt you won't. Anyway, that's all. Bye-bye.